Okay. Hey now! It's your boy PSA Sitch here with another debate analysis.
Yeah, look at this.
What's up? And we're joined by our very favorite wrangler of cats, Adam
Yes.
Friended.
What's up? How you
I
doing?
think I caught that. I hope I caught that in the beginning. You trying to get wormy off your lap.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hilarious. So, look, I pulled up the poll numbers and we got the spicy clip that everyone's going to be talking about for days.
Yeah.
Did you know that heels could be used as a deadly weapon?
I was very confused by that comment. Yes,
Yeah,
didn't get
first of all,
that.
I was confused. I was like, Ramaswamy made a comment about somebody was Dick Cheney in heels, and I was like, is that DeSantis he's talking about, or is that Nikki Haley?
It was both. He said there's two people.
Did he?
He did, yes. He said there was is the clip that clip or is it the other clip or is it both that you have?
It's not no, it's the second clip. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So let me look at my notes because
I don't have the Dick Cheney in heels.
right. Okay. So
Yes. That was
let's see.
just a let's just look a minor elbow.
Right. So he said, do you want Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels because we have two of them on stage? LOL. Obviously referring to both Nikki and DeSantis for being too much for being too hawkish. So
Wow. Wow. Okay. And also a dig at DeSantis for wearing heels.
for being short, yeah. There you go.
Yes. Look at this.
But these poll numbers are interesting. So you have Trump, obviously the lead, 43%. This kind of surprising. Haley tied with DeSantis,
Right, but that's going to
16%.
change tomorrow, right? I'm assuming Haley's going to pull ahead after tonight's
I
performance.
don't think
Okay.
so.
Yeah, okay.
But then Scott's at 7%. Ramaswamy, 4%. He cannot pull ahead. He
Oh,
cannot gain ground. He's
he's
floundering,
a
yeah.
mess. Yeah.
And we'll talk about that once we get into the analysis. But you want to watch the clip?
Sure, you want to. So this is the second exchange where they're talking about China. So, and I have the whole
China.
exchange. Yes. So we'll just get into it.
Yeah, but Ambassador Haley, speak to the parents out there. There are probably TikTok apps on half the phones in this auditorium.
No, I'm going to speak to the fact that two people hit me and you didn't let me respond. So let's first talk about the fact that they want to talk about the Chinese land from 10 years ago. Yes, I brought a fiberglass company 10 years ago to South Carolina. But Ron, you are the chair of your economic development agency that as of last week said Florida is the ideal place for Chinese businesses. Not only that, you have a company that is manufacturer of Chinese military planes. You have it, they are expanding 2 training sites at 2 of your airports now, one which is 12 miles away from a naval base. Then you have another company that's expanding, and they were just invaded by the Department of Homeland Security. So mine was 10 years ago.
You gave
Yours
them
was
stuff.
6
I
months
didn't
ago.
give them anything.
What's your story?
And I abolished that agency that she's talking about.
No,
Enterprise Florida, we abolished it. And of course, we banned
He
China from
scrubbed
buying
the
land.
website
Not
last
exactly
week.
a
Go
great
check.
recruiting
I
pitch
want
if you're
to,
banning them from purchasing land
scrubbed
at
the
all.
website
So we've
last
stood up and
week.
we've
Thank you,
done the
Ambassador
right thing
Haley.
in Florida.
Mr. Ramaswamy, we've talked about this. You
So do you want to get in on any of this before Ramaswamy speaks?
So the question was, would you ban TikTok? Which I guess is important because Vivek's going to bring that up. That was the question. She didn't answer it. She instead decided to go back to people that had attacked her earlier in the conversation. She brought up DeSantis, who was saying that, oh, you were soft on China. And she's like, no, you're soft on China. So that's all that really happened in that exchange.
Well,
But the most important thing,
she's responding to the previous attack where Ramaswamy accused her of being in bed with the military industrial complex. So this is her response. Yeah.
Yes. Also, I never noticed before this moment how much DeSantis looks like Homelander. It's very strange to me.
Oh, he does. He does.
Doesn't he?
Oh my God.
Blow your mind.
He does.
Look, we're at 160. I wanted to go back. when she's talking about him
yeah.
and he starts smiling, he looks just like the Homelander, like smiling meme.
From 10 years ago. Yes, I brought a fiberglass company 10 years ago to South Carolina. But Ron, you are the chair of your economic development agency that as of last week said Florida is the ideal place.
Doesn't he look just like the Homelander meme where he's like slowly starts to smile? It's insane to me.
That is crazy. He does.
This?
Yeah,
yes.
he is a spitting image of the Homelander. Wow.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad
thing. I know.
thing.
Does that hurt or help him? I feel like it might help if he spins it right.
For Chinese businesses. Not only that, you have a company that is manufacturing. That's your story.
And I abolished that agency that she purchased.
Okay, anyway, we're at 116.
We're already to the back. Yeah.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Ban if you use it.
Well,
Thank you, Ambassador Haley.
In Florida.
Mr. Ramaswamy, we've talked about this. You campaign on TikTok. How do you get TikTok banned if you use it?
Well, I want to laugh at why Nikki Haley didn't answer your question, which is about looking at families in the eye. In the last debate, she made fun of me for actually joining TikTok while her own daughter was actually using the app for a long time. So you might want to take care of your family first.
Leave my daughter out of your voice.
Adult daughter. The next generation of Americans are using it. And that's actually the point. You have her supporters propping her up. That's fine. Here's the truth.
You're just
the easy answer is...
Oh my word. She's got a real friendly crowd. They were giving her big cheers all night long.
Yes. Well, she's the new party donor favorite, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're getting the right people in crowd. If you know what I'm saying.
Oh, you think so? Oh, they packed the house with Haley supporters.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
So pay close attention here. I watched this twice, obviously, because I had to record the clip.
Mm-hmm.
She knocked Ramaswamy off his game. He is a little flustered here.
Oh, okay.
He does a little spitting and stuttering towards the end of his delivery. You can tell that scum. He's basically trying to think, how do I respond to that? Like, he doesn't respond. He seems kind of seems kind of demoralized that she actually did it.
Yeah.
The next generation. The next generation of Americans are using it. And that's actually the point. You have her supporters propping her up. That's fine. Here's the truth. The easy answer is actually to say that we're just going to ban one app. We got to go further. We have to ban any U.S. company actually transferring U.S. data to the Chinese. Here's a story most people don't know. Airbnb hands over U.S. user data to the CCP. Now, that's a U.S.-owned company. So this is the problem when you have Republicans that temporarily go the way the winds blow, and now it's popular to talk tough on China. When she was UN ambassador, called them, literally her words, not mine, our great friend. You can't be fair weather fans of the right policy. Get to the root cause. Even U.S. companies in Silicon Valley are regularly doing it. Cut the virtue signaling. The fact of the matter is Democrats are on TikTok today. The only person, one of the few people who is putting up content the way the actual algorithms work, speaking for pro-Israel views or others, is
Ambassador
me, and
Haley,
more Republicans will join it. But stop U.S. companies.
Man, I can't stop seeing Homelander there, Sitch.
I told us. I don't know. We never noticed this before.
It's like the spitting image.
Yes.
If he was blonde, it would be
from turning over data to Chinese companies. That's the real answer, not the virtue
Kristen don't get to respond to personal attacks, but you do.
Thank you very much. You know, when he talks about me praising China, he doesn't know the fact that the reason China was praised was because I negotiated with China and Russia the largest set of sanctions against North Korea in a generation. That is literally the reason North Korea stopped testing ballistic missiles. So I said China did good on their part. That was a negotiation you could never do.
What you said, Nikki. Those are your words, not mine. And so just own up to it.
You would never
you can
have
change
been able
your mind.
to get
That's
that
allowed.
negotiation
But don't
done.
lie to the people about what you've said or what you've done in South Carolina.
My
you have brought
entire
them to South
career
Carolina.
at the
Ron is
United
right
Nations.
about that.
Every day I fought China, and I did it by making sure no one could get any agency heads in UN. I did it by making sure that we called them out on human rights. I did it by making sure that we held them accountable on everything that they did. That's the reason we got out of the Human Rights Council. That's the reason we called them out. And there's not been a day I haven't
Nikki,
stopped
Senator
Scott,
wasn't
it is your
doing
turn.
policy
Mr.
experience with the
Ramaswamy.
millions.
What is going on with her collar?
Oh, I don't know. This is so lame on Vivek's part because who cares? She said that we're great friends with China. It's a diplomacy thing. It's they're a diplomat. Like, what do you you're not in a diplomatic role and you're saying fuck China.
Sure, and
let's be realistic here,
right? And assuming she's saying that there was some deal that they negotiated and China did whatever supposedly the U.S. wanted. So obviously, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, yeah,
stupid posturing.
It does feel dishonest, but these the visuals of these debates are very important. And I think whoever dressed her did an awful job because this collar, it looks like she's like an evil witch. And she's got like that, how they have like evil wizards have that like collar that pops up behind them. You know what I'm talking about?
She's got the Cruella de Vil look.
Yeah, she's got the Cruella de Vil / like Saruman like evil wizard thing going on in the back there. I don't know. That was a bad
that
fashion
jacket should be in a Dalmatian print, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that might not be a good look.
Yeah,
it is kind of weird. The collar is up a bit.
Yeah, it's not good.
It didn't jump out at me, so
I didn't notice it until this clip.
Look, I was cheering. She keeps beating. I don't like fake. I don't like Ramaswamy at all.
Vivek was interesting in this conversation because I think he did better in this debate than he did in the second debate. I think he did really poorly in the second debate. But he does, in my opinion, and I see a lot of people like super simping for Vivek on Twitter, just because they agree with some of his policies. They agree, they like that he's attacking the mainstream Republicans, which he does, and we'll talk about that. But I think he does well when he's not attacking the people on stage. Like when he's just saying, like, this is the policies that I believe in, and I think the Republicans are messing up. I think he does better there. When he attacks the other candidates on stage, it just, to me, comes off petty and bickering. And especially, I think, the fact of his age, when older people watch this, who are not, like, so starry-eyed with Vivek, they just don't like the visuals of seeing it at all. They don't like it. And he comes off in the wrong. He doesn't have the energy to do it. He doesn't have the Trump energy to do it.
He said like 3 or 4 times that I'm the young gun. I'm the young guy. And I keep wondering if that is playing well to that older audience. Republicans skew older as it is.
Yes.
So
yes,
I do
don't
agree
think it
that
does. I mean, the polling shows it 4%.
Yeah. And he was much higher in the polls last time. I believe he was considerably higher than Nikki Haley.
Right. Okay, so let's start over. Or let's start over with our notes here.
Right.
So we're gonna try to do this much faster than we did last time. We're not gonna do like a play-by-play. We're only gonna like kind of do our general impressions and then point out like key things from the debate. So the first thing I want to talk about that I noticed. So the first question was like, why should you be the nominee instead of Trump? And it's interesting. So DeSantis answers first. And the first thing that sticks out to me that's very strange is that DeSantis, and this is before I realized he looked like Homelander, so this was not biasing my opinion, okay, is that I looked at this and I said, holy shit, DeSantis is starting to gain a personality.
Really?
Did you I don't know, did you feel that way in this debate?
I felt he gained a personality when you called him Homelander. He gained Homelander's personality. I was like, oh, wow. Finally.
No, so I've always said DeSantis, he has the personality of wet cardboard. And then the second debate, I said, okay, he's like just trying to be angry. That's his personality. He has no personality, so he's going to be angry to like mask his personality. This debate, he's very good, I guess, at taking notes. Maybe he's listening to the stream because he didn't act very angry at all. This one, he didn't do like the I'm angry, I'm so angry, blah, blah, blah. But he had like a level of sincerity in his look and his speech that I'd never seen before, which was fascinating to me. So he's definitely been coached by someone and it's working. So I would say that DeSantis, You know, if he can keep up that skill and continue to become more sincere, I think he'll be a force to be reckoned with, possibly.
So you think he might come out on top tomorrow? I mean, I got to admit, I'm going to be looking at the polls first thing in the morning.
Well, there's like this super weird thing that is kind of going on with Nikki, where to me it feels artificial, but maybe it's just because I don't perceive it. Where all these people are talking about how much they love Nikki, and I don't get it because I listen to her and I don't see the spark at all. I don't know if you see it. Like, do you see the appeal?
I see the spark. Yes.
Okay, what is the spark?
The spark is just that feisty, go get 'em attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You think that's it?
Maybe it's my lefty intuitions rising up, but it's like that strong woman vibe.
Yes. See, but that's it.
But it's not, she wasn't, like, we called her girl boss in the first debate.
Yeah.
I don't think she shook it in the second debate. I didn't feel any girl boss in this. And maybe it's because everybody was attacking her and she was attacking back.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't remember if in the other debate she drew first blood, and that might have made an impression. But this time around, it seemed like she wasn't going to let anything slide.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked that. I did like it. I like that she held off until it was her time to ask. Vivek got cucked twice. Oh, let me talk, teacher. Let me talk. It looks so bad.
Right.
Nikki didn't do that. Nikki held back and waited for her turn and then pounced.
She had it wasn't the one we watched. There's another exchange that she had with DeSantis where she attacked DeSantis for not drilling in the Everglades.
Right.
And that one I think looked very poor for her because DeSantis is like, Floridians agree they don't want me to drill in the Everglades. It's just like very like, what the fuck? Like, okay, what are you, an idiot? And she just had like, I don't know, I think she looked really bad in that exchange because she just kept repeating, you said that you were in favor of fracking and you then banned fracking. Yes, well, America, Floridians don't want me to frack and drill in the Everglades, and I agree with that. You said you wouldn't ban fracking. Like, I was just like, okay. It was dumb.
When we got to the energy section, I was doing the clipping, so I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I was like half paying attention. Okay. Yeah,
but,
I missed the energy exchange.
That's fine.
The Social Security exchange was funny too because, and this is to DeSantis's credit, and I actually liked it. He's like, look, the whole state of Florida is retired. What do you expect me to do?
Yes, that's true. That was a good answer. But going back to Nikki for a second, so it's funny that because I agree with you, she didn't come off as a girl boss, which is very important.
Yes.
At least in this debate, she did not come off as a girl boss. But she does have that like pro-woman energy thing that you're talking about. And to me, it's fascinating because I have seen a lot of people on the left who are like simping for her. So you were so correct to be like, maybe it's my left-wing intuition. Because I'm seeing like people on the left who I were like, why are they supporting Nikki? She's like, they shouldn't like her policies, and yet they seem to be doing it. But
really,
yes,
lefties. So she could draw moderate voters in.
Well, no. To be clear, they're not going to vote for her over Biden. But like, if it was her versus Biden or her versus whomever, and she won, they wouldn't like go insane.
Look,
right?
she's gonna draw moderate voters. There are a ton of people who think Biden is virtually dead and that Vice President Kamala Harris is just terrifying to them. So even she's going to draw moderate voters, even though.
Well, okay. So there's an interesting shift that's occurring where DeSantis is losing support financially from the big donors in the Republican Party, and they're going to Nikki Haley. And part of the question is, why is that happening? And it could be what you just laid out, which is that in a theoretical matchup between Nikki Haley and Biden, it's weird because I think she's hurt by the fact that I'm not sure she will draw Republicans the way that Trump obviously will. And I don't think she'll even draw Republican voters the way that necessarily DeSantis would. But her benefit is what you just said. She will draw moderate voters and she will draw swing voters. And maybe that's the calculation that the donor class is now doing for the Republicans.
Trump lost suburban moms in the election.
Right.
It was a big hit for him.
Yeah.
This screams suburban mom. Look at that outfit. I'm telling you. Well, look, if Trump is a nominee, Trump wants a female vice president anyway. So I mean, she could be running for VP here as well. So she's got a lot of options on the table.
She's kind of attacked him a bit though, so I'm not sure he would accept that.
Trump.
It's a good move politically, but I don't know if he would accept it.
Trump can put his big boy pants on when he
Can
has
he?
to. He can. He
Okay.
can.
We'll see. I still think, like, if in a theoretical situation where Trump is, not running or whatever, it's still hard for me to perceive that Nikki is going to win over DeSantis in a primary. I cannot see that occurring.
Really?
Yeah, I don't.
I can totally see it. Look, I don't
think she has the support of the broad Republican Party. I just don't see it. I think, like, you really think the majority of Trump voters are going to go to Nikki instead of DeSantis, who's basically like Trump, but like Trump policies, but less Trump behavior, and then Nikki, who's kind of like running as a moderate Republican-ish, well, sort of moderate. She's kind of, it's similar. She's being.
They
moderate.
want to win. They want to win. They don't care about all that.
Do you think the people that are pushing for Trump are thinking pragmatically in terms of that they want to win, or they're supporting who they want to win?
I don't know that she's going to displace Trump.
None of them are going to displace Trump,
right?
Unless Trump gets arrested or something crazy.
I'm not thinking in terms of people are going to weigh policy.
Sure.
I don't think Trump barely puts out any policy at all.
I agree.
What are you going to do on abortion? We'll talk about it. We'll negotiate. So why is anyone going to hold Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis? We're looking, this is the vibes part of
I agree.
The election.
I agree.
And she won the vibes war tonight.
I don't know, because her vibe is being more moderate. And I don't know if I don't think that's what the Republican Party wants. Yeah, that's the vibe I get from her.
Moderate how?
That's her vibe. She had the whole thing about like, we need to work with Democrats.
The thing that people like
Do you
about
remember
Trump,
what was that about abortion? Or is it something she was saying we need to work with Democrats?
Look, you're talking policy. We can talk policy.
No. I agree with you. Wait. The specific policy doesn't matter. But when you say the words, we need to work with Democrats, that creates a vibe of being moderate, does it not?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
So maybe I missed we need to work with Democrats. Is that on what policy was?
I thought that was regarding abortions or something.
Okay. I'm looking stylistically just overall. Why do people like Trump? What is the singular thing that Trump has that Republicans love?
He says F you.
Yeah, he says F you.
Right.
He says, I'm going to hit you in the head with a 3-inch stiletto. So shut the fuck up, Vivek. This is that stylistically, she's hitting that. She's completely hitting that mark. I didn't see DeSantis pull out anything like that.
Here's the issue, though. I agree with you. Well, first of all, her comment about the stiletto, which we'll talk about, I didn't even understand what the hell she was saying. But
I don't wear them for fashion. I wear them for ammunition.
Yeah. So Vivek said
that means I'm going to throw a shoe at you, motherfucker.
That's so lame, though. So Vivek says like, oh, we have 2 Dick Cheneys and heels on stage. He said we have 2 Dick Cheneys and 3-inch heels on stage, referring to her and DeSantis. DeSantis never responds to this. He just ignores it. She responds by saying, they're 5-inch heels. I only wear ones I can run in, which everyone applauded to. I was like, oh, okay. And then she said, I don't wear them as a fashion statement, but for ammunition. Which I guess, as you meant, is to like, I'm going to throw them at his face. Right.
Yes.
At first I was like, was she going to like break off the heel loading a gun? Like, well, I was like, what the fuck does that even mean?
That's a trope in every movie, a woman throwing their shoe at somebody.
I guess it's so lame. I don't think that's a bad comeback.
Well, it's better than DeSantis, who just sat there and took it. Oh, thanks for hitting me.
DeSantis is trying to do the like I'm above the fray. He's been doing this for all the debates.
Oh, we got
above the fray. We need to attack Biden, not each other. That's like kind of been his role in all this.
I say Haley is up tomorrow. I say Haley
might
is
be.
in second
I don't
place.
disagree.
Yeah,
I
easily destroyed DeSantis tonight. It's no contest. What is your prediction?
I think you're probably correct that after this that Haley will go up. But
right,
I'm talking about like if Trump isn't around, who's going to get that? Who's going to get the bulk of that? And I still think it's going to be DeSantis. I don't, because what you're saying is true. Is like, does Nikki? Does she have the vibe, the FU vibe that Trump does? And my view is no, she doesn't. She's trying to. She's trying to get it, but she doesn't have it. And the only thing that's worse than not having it is trying to get it and not have it. Because then it looks bad. It looks desperate. And I think that's why DeSantis isn't even trying to play that. He knows he doesn't have that energy.
Right.
That's why he kept saying, like, listen, I'm going to like take all the hits for you from all like the woke media and everything. I'm going to be the guy that's going to shield you from all this garbage while we, quote, fix the country.
Right. Okay. Well,
so,
look, I think she is. I think she's definitely coming close to the Trump vibe. So I guess maybe we just disagree. Here, I'm going to put a poll up: DeSantis or Haley, who won? Just we'll poll the audience.
Sure. So, okay. So let's see what else was kind of interesting. Oh, so in the opening question, Vivek decides to use the opening question. Now, I'm curious as how you feel about this. Vivek uses the opening question to say that the Republicans are a party of losers.
I know.
Okay. And he means like that the Republicans are losing in elections, not necessarily that like to be a Republican is a loser. Number one.
That was so bad. I cringed when he said it. I was like, this is why this guy's just crashing and burning.
Yeah, because it's weird, because there's like a lot of people on the internet who are cheering when he says that. And I'm like, okay, they're not like the average person, when he says that, they're not interpreting the way that the internet people cheering Vivek are interpreting it. They hear when he says Republicans are a party of losers, they hear it as if Vivek is calling them losers. Yes. So it was a very poorly worded statement. So he says that, and then he immediately starts the debate by insulting NBC for hosting the debate in the first place.
I know.
It's weird.
Oh my God.
He's like, we should have had Tucker Carlson, Elon Musk, and Joe Rogan asking us the questions instead of NBC. And I was like, that's an unusual thing. And then he does a very strange thing where he attacks NBC for talking about Trump-Russia collusion, and he specifically asked one of the hosts why that they were lying about Trump-Russia collusion.
I know. Oh, it's so cringe.
And I was like, I'm watching this, I'm like, I'm kind of mixed on this because I'm like, okay, this is a weird thing. Maybe it's a good ploy because, you want to make like weird, memorable moments in these debates. And this is definitely a weird, memorable moment. Vivek attacks the host of the thing, but I'm not sure it's going to work. First of all, I think it's going to get lost. I don't think I'm going to actually talk about this moment because there's other, like the scum moments is going to be what everyone talks about. And the shoe moment is what everyone's going to be talking about. But the question was, why should people support you over Donald Trump? And so for you to attack the host for being unfair to Trump, that kind of just reinforces the fact that no one should support you over Donald Trump, does it not?
And at this point, he looks like he's copy pasting all of Donald Trump's moves. The second Donald Trump signature move is attacking the media. So it's kind of like he's playing just let me do whatever Trump does and see what happens. It's getting old. Like at some point he has to distinguish himself from Trump. So
yeah.
That's the issue for me with that. As soon as he did look, I'm going to attack the media, I'm going to ask you the questions. It had the wrong kind of vibe. It really did.
Yeah, it didn't strike me as accomplishing. He just, as I said this before, Vivek, in my opinion, so I think part of why Trump can get away with what he does is like everyone needs to understand what their personality and what their energy type plays to.
Yeah,
and Trump is like, he's old. He's like an older guy. He's in his like 60s or 70s. He seems like a seasoned business guy who was a boss, who was known for firing people on TV. So he has this kind of like air of authority over like other people, right? Like, I'm known as being this big boss guy. And whenever he talks, in these debates or when he talks these things, he usually doesn't get that angry, or he doesn't sound that angry. He has this like very dismissive way of like insulting people, which adds to his own air of being above everything, right? Like, oh, like I'm just going to dismiss you. You're like a minion below me. I'm not even going to get that angry at you. I'm just going to like, hand wave away you with some snide remark. Vivek, number one, he can't have that because he's just young. He looks too young. He sounds too young. His tone of voice doesn't match any of that stuff. I know he's like the CEO of some company. He doesn't have that energy. So he can't act as like the boss who's dismissing people the way Trump does. And he has like kind of like, so I think he's completely, when he goes on the offense, I think he just completely stumbles and drops the ball. I don't think any of it works for him. When I was seeing him on podcasts before these debates, he always seemed, his strength, it was so weird on these debates. In the podcast that we'd watch and these interviews that we'd watch where I thought he did well, he never did this. He'd always be kind of like cordial to the people. And he would say what he believes and he'd be strong and say like, I don't agree with you, but he'd be cordial about it. He had a completely different energy, completely different attitude. He wasn't like attacking people the way he's doing on the debate stage. And I think he really needs to run as kind of like Republican Obama, as like the young guy who's, full of hope and energy that's going to bring about something new and positive. And just attacking people the way he's doing it with these snide remarks, it just, I don't know, it doesn't click for me. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah, you make a super interesting point, and I never really thought about this with Obama before, but Obama did play to his strengths as a younger politician. He was always incredibly respectful. And I do think Vivek has that kind of disrespectful attitude towards his elders that plays wrong for him looking as young as he looks. And he probably could get more buy-in. And you're right, when he was on the podcast, even when he was being attacked, he was super respectful. He maintained that air of, you can attack me and I'm going to respect you. That has gone out the window with all of these debates.
Yes.
Like he opened the debate disrespecting the frickin' voters. I was like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? All of these Republicans, they showed up to vote. They lost their shirts. They're demoralized about it. Here you are the very next day calling them losers. What are you doing?
Yeah. Yep.
What are you doing?
You didn't differentiate between like the Republican politicians and Republican voters when he said that. And I think it was a huge
misstep. Yes.
Yeah.
Huge miscalculation.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think you're honing in on something very valuable there with the respect issue. Because his age, he's trying to make his age an asset. He keeps saying, I think he said 3 times in this debate, I'm the young gun. I'm the one that has the legs that can carry us to the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that brash, I'm going to nickname everyone and insult everyone, that works for Trump because he's 70. He's like the boss, right?
Yeah.
But the new guy coming into the company that starts giving everybody nicknames, that's not a good look, right?
He hasn't earned it.
Yes. So I think that's the vibes that are happening here. And that's probably why he's tanking in the look. He's going to be below 2% tomorrow. I don't think he's going to be around much longer, this is the interesting thing for me because Haley and DeSantis, who does the vote go to? I heard someone saying, one of the pundits beforehand was saying they think whoever drops out, their votes are going to go to Trump. I don't know that that's the case. I feel like Trump had a solid 50. He was at 50% at one time. Now he's down to 43. So I think these indictments and legal battles are having an effect.
Maybe. It is. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Vivek's votes go to Trump.
His whole 4%. Okay.
Yeah, maybe Trump, DeSantis. I don't think they're going to go to Nikki. The other ones is a toss up. I don't know where I'll go.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So it's interesting because like when I first watched the debate when we covered it, I thought Vivek did very well. And it's because I'm a young person or younger person, I should say, because I'm not a young person. So I didn't perceive like that older people who are the primary voting base for Republicans would see Vivek through that lens of like this upstart who doesn't deserve it. And then that's what everyone was saying after the debate. And then I saw his polling numbers go down after the debate. I thought I did well. And I said, oh shit, I didn't even perceive that because of my age. And then when I started looking at through that lens, it's like I just can't shake it. It's just so in my face now that that's what's going on here. So
they didn't even give DeSantis a close up here.
So and then we had Scott's taking a very interesting strategy in this debate. His strategy is to go before the audience, to get on his knees and put his hands together and say, listen, y'all, we need Jesus in our lives.
Let us pray together.
Let us all pray. I guess since Pence has dropped out now, so Pence is gone, so we can't have Pence taking out a Bible and like throwing it across the stage to like smash anyone in the face with anymore. So Scott's like, okay, good, Pence is gone, so now I get like his 2% of the vote. So I'm gonna just go out there and be like, we need God, we need God, we need God. Like, oh my God. All he was saying, like almost every answer that Scott gave was, we need God in our lives and in our government. I'm just like, really? Is this the message for 2023? Is to bring religion back into governance? I don't know if that's the answer.
At one point he said, I'm the person who can unify the base and unify the country. And the way we're going to do that is with Jesus. I was like, really? Look, I'm not so sure that's the right route, especially when they're saying that the shellacking the Republicans took last night was over abortion.
Yes.
Yeah,
true.
it was. I was thinking this is not a good move, and I kept waiting for the abortion question to come around. He didn't come out and say, "Look, I'm for a federal ban." He did say
he did. What do you mean?
Well, for the 15 weeks,
right. Yeah, he
didn't
walked it back.
He didn't take the harder line. Oh, life begins at conception. We need a federal ban.
Well, no, didn't he? Do you still have your? I don't know if I have my notes. I could have sworn in the second debate he said he was in favor of a federal ban, like period.
I have my notes. I'll take a look.
Because in this debate he walked it back to 15 weeks, which is kind of interesting to me. Because you're right, because of shellacking.
There's a lot of walking back going on in abortion. Which look, I'm pro-choice myself, so I would be fine with a 15-week ban. I understand the trepidation about it. So, I mean, the law would have to be very well written.
Mm-hmm.
So you aren't catching people who are having some sort of health issue that are beyond the 15 weeks.
Right.
So that would be my only case.
So then there was Christie, who didn't really have a strong impact on me at all in the debate. He's kind of like trying to be like the moderate guy, I guess. And it's like, okay, but I don't, he didn't do anything that really stood out. He's just kind of low energy. He's kind of like a chill, calm guy. I mean, I think he's going to probably drop out next, would be my guess.
He had one really good moment where he said, none of these motherfuckers answered your question.
He did. It was pretty funny. That's true.
And I do like that because, man, you know how I feel about these Dodgers. Answer the question.
So that was in response to, it was a very weird question. Charlie Rhodes, who's like this conservative, that's the guy's name, right? Charlie Rhodes?
No, Charlie Rose was not there.
Rhodes? Who's that guy?
I'm not sure. One of the moderators?
The Republican, Hugh Hitt or whatever. I don't know. Sure. Whatever. There's some Republican talk show host guy there. I don't know. Remember what his name was. And he kept asking this question about like, okay, so we're worried about China threatening Taiwan. We need to build a bigger navy. How many like exact ships should we build, and like what kind of military ship should we build?
Right.
And so obviously they're not going to like people didn't want to give him like a specific answer for like number of ships, right?
They did. DeSantis gave him.
They were like 20% or like I don't know. It was kind of like
No,
people were answering.
said 350.
Okay. Well then, so
Haley said she listed what China has. China has
Right.
350,
Right.
and they're going to have 400 in 2 years. We have 291. She didn't say how many they had. DeSantis said he had a plan to produce 350 ships in his first term, 400 by his second term, and 600 over the next 20 years. I'm like, are we going to look? We're going to have flying ships
Right. Yeah.
in 20 years.
So then that means Christie was kind of BSing because then a bunch of people did answer the question.
He said submarines. He's like, look, we need nuclear submarines in the water. That's what we
but that means people were answering the question. They were giving some number of ships.
Right.
So, but then, so he criticizes everyone for not answering when they sort of did, as you pointed out.
Okay, I guess you're right. Yeah.
Right. If they were giving specific numbers. And then he said that the solution was nuclear submarines, which, I mean, someone, we kind of looked into this supposedly, or we were told this, that the area, the strait in between, wasn't it like the strait in between China and Taiwan too shallow to have a bunch of nuclear submarines?
No, it's way
anyway.
Deep. No.
Okay. I thought people were saying it was too shallow for nuclear submarines.
Somebody messaged me and said they were reading recently that we have a nuclear sub that follows around every single Chinese and Russian nuclear sub and keeps tabs on them. Because they don't have radar. Well, they have sonar underwater, but if they lose them, they don't know where they are. But isn't that kind of cool that
that is pretty cool,
keeping track of them all?
Oh, so I want to go back to talk about Scott for a second. So do you think with him going on the whole "we need God," I wonder because I don't know. I don't think it's gonna win him the primary.
Oh, really? You don't think God is going to step in and go, look, you've praised me enough. Thank you.
No.
I'm making, what did you mean?
I meant appealing to voters. You could be right. Maybe he's appealing to God himself to make him the primary. I didn't even think about that. You're right.
It's desperate times, man.
That's true.
He's got to go. He's got to go with his best option.
That's a good
divine intervention.
There you go. I didn't even think about that. That could be it. So putting him operating or divine intervention aside, okay. He could be thinking like, listen, Trump. And the reason I don't think God is the answer is because obviously, Trump's a big support. Trump is like the number one candidate. No one's voting for Trump for God, right? It's like the most ungodly candidate like the last 50 years. So Pence is out, obviously, right?
Yes.
So maybe he thinks, okay, Trump got Pence because Pence is like the big God guy.
Oh, he's going for VP.
Yes, and he's like, what does Trump need? Trump needs some flavor of minority, whether it be a black person or a woman, and they need a God guy because he's so like such a heathen himself. So maybe he's like, I'm going to be Pence 2.0. Listen, Trump, I'll throw out any votes you want me to throw out. I like God. Pick me.
He is as sleepy. He's definitely as boring as Pence.
Yes.
So he's got that going for him. Yeah, look, I said Scott was going to be his VP pick a long time ago. I think that prediction is going to turn out to be incorrect. But now
You're back. Maybe you're back, baby.
I'm back on the board. Thank you. Thank you, Sitch. I don't know. I think so Haley and Scott could both be the VP pick. They're trying to out VP one another.
Yeah, but Haley, I think you're right that Haley has she's trying to do the firecracker energy, but I don't think Trump wants the firecracker energy for his VP.
Oh, I think he would take it. The reports are that Trump wants a female VP because of the house. The suburban moms.
Housewives. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I mean,
I brought up a Homelander pic just so you could see a side by side. Wow.
Look at that. They're like the same person. Okay.
It's kind of crazy.
Isn't it? Yeah. How did we never notice this before? Isn't this so weird?
Yeah, no.
But and Scott kind of also was doing the whole like I can get minorities to vote for the Republicans. I don't know. I think that's a losing. I think it's a losing avenue to try to appeal to Republican voters. Like they don't care if you can get minority. I think that's the thing that
they want to win. I mean,
yeah, but not to be like they don't want to hear the identity politics stuff. I really don't think Republicans want to hear that. I think Nikki made a huge misstep, and this will come back to bite her, where she was sort of talking. She did a sexism. She didn't do it in this debate. She did in the second debate. She made some sexist remark about how like we need men. I mean, we need women.
Oh, you're
men,
right.
Can't
she did the girl boss thing.
Whatever. Yeah, she made some woman comment. I'm just like, you Republican voters don't want to hear that. That's such a baffling misstep.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Let me read some super chats.
No. Do super chat. We'll do super chats at the end.
Okay.
Let's continue.
Okay. So the next part. So obviously they asked questions about Israel.
Okay.
And this was kind of interesting. So DeSantis had a very like a lot of them had a very aggressive stance on Israel. DeSantis is like, I told Bibi to finish the job once and for all. I was like, oh my God. He was like, burn Hamas to the ground. I was like, geez. I mean, he is governor of Florida. Florida is like the second highest population of Jews in the United States. So I guess it makes sense.
That's what I love about this. It's all straight selectorate theory.
Yes.
He knows where his bread is buttered.
He also said this, I never heard this before, and I'm kind of curious to fact check this. He said that there were
700
Jewish,
people, yeah.
Israeli Floridians that I guess either have dual citizenship or something, who couldn't get flights out of Israel after the October 7th, and that he somehow facilitated that specifically, which I was like, oh, that's weird, but okay. And then Nikki, she was like, I have to one up DeSantis here. So she literally put on a scorpion mask from Mortal Kombat, and she leaned to the mic and she said, finish them to Bibi Netanyahu. She literally said, I told him to say, finish them to Hamas. And I was like, Jesus Christ. And so, yeah, she's just completely on the unconditional support train for Israel.
Did you see her clip doing that?
Her
it was
clip?
Pretty crazy, yeah.
No.
She did the finish them clip. Yeah, she was very forcefully saying, she told Bibi, finish them.
No, are you saying, was there a clip before the debate? Is this like a line she's used? Oh,
it was on October 7th. Yeah, she came out and she said, like, finish them.
Yeah, I was like, Jesus.
Yeah.
So they were all basically, all of them were for unconditional support for Israel. Nikki and Scott both signal that we need to get into a war with Iran, maybe, which was kind of interesting. I think that might hurt. I think that's going to probably hurt Nikki if she kind of pushes on the we need to attack Iran train. I don't think the Republican Party is in favor of attacking Iran currently.
Right.
So I think that's going to hurt her. And then there's Vivek, who's the one that had kind of a different opinion. So he was kind of being sneaky with his answer here, because he was saying Israel has a right to defend its borders and do whatever they want. But without saying it, though, he was implying it. He was implying that we should not really be helping Israel in any way, capacity, militarily, financially, guns, and like whatsoever. That Israel can do whatever it wants, but they should just do it by themselves. But I thought it was fascinating that he was saying this without saying it. Like he was just kind of implying it. He didn't feel confident enough to say that straight up.
Right. He took a very isolationist stance again, which it is what it is, but I'm not sure that isolationist stance is helping him in the polls. Obviously, he's had the same tact all the way along, and all he's done is sink. So,
well, I mean, that is the danger of, you have to run against Trump to some capacity, unless he's just holding out hope that Trump gets arrested and he absorbs all of the Trump vote.
Trump is not taking an isolationist stance. Trump is taking.
You're right. That's a good point.
Trump is kind of brilliant on this stuff, right? His stance is, oh, we don't have to worry about it. It's not a problem. I'll solve it, right?
Mhm.
So if you're an isolationist and you want the troops to come home, well, that's what's going to happen. And if you want to, go to war and beat up all of our enemies, well, that's going to happen too. It's like you can take the interpretation of what Trump is saying either way.
Yeah,
So-
that's a good point. Trump always likes to play vague with his foreign policy stances. I kind of let you interpret them how you will. I think Vivek is too captured by the internet bros.
Yes.
And there is still, and probably will be, maybe forever or for at least a time, a disconnect between what internet pundits want and what the normie voters want.
Yes. Yes.
And so, yeah, I do think, but I mean, I do think the Republican normie voters, they don't want to start any new wars in the Middle East, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they want to just be this like kind of isolationist approach to everything. So,
yeah, I don't think your average Iowa caucus goer is on Twitter following the Libertarian Party.
mhm.
So it happens, and I've said this before. Every single election, there seems to be some internet candidate. Andrew Yang,
Right.
Ron Paul is famous. He was the internet candidate for time immemorial, right?
Right.
That everyone thinks is going to be the breakout candidate because
Bernie
they're so
was
popular.
the left-wing internet candidate.
Exactly. Yes. Everyone thinks is going to be the breakout candidate because they're so popular online. Never materializes. Because there's a bunch of people who just aren't online. They're like,
Right. I guess
living
Bernie
their
was the
lives.
closest, but yeah, the right-wing ones have not had a lot of traction.
Yeah. And Vivek is definitely in that camp now.
Yeah,
So
Okay, then there was some other questions. There's nothing that was particularly interesting to me, except they're talking about, the protests on college campuses that were kind of pro-Hamas.
right.
And it's kind of interesting. So Scott and DeSantis were both in favor of pulling federal funding from schools that were basically soft on pro-Hamas college groups.
Right.
And using sort of like some kind of executive federal power to actually stop that, where Vivek, he is against that. It's kind of weird. He pointed out that wokeness is the root cause of all this, which I like. But then he said that unlike the other candidates on stage, he doesn't want to do anything censorious. He doesn't want to use any federal power to influence the colleges. He just said like leadership, not censorship, is the way to fix this, but I don't know what leadership means in that context. So I think it seemed like a very big non-answer to me.
Right. He's been on this meaning crisis kick.
Right.
So
which I think is true.
Well, to some extent, but yes, he didn't fill in the context of how he is going to categorically end the meaning crisis and solve this issue. So you don't have to do it with censorship. Like I agree with him that I'm not in favor of the censorship. I'm a tad skeptical that there is this meaning crisis that people keep talking about. I think there are people who are obviously depressed, but I don't know if it's a majority of the population.
Well, I don't think it's the majority of the population that votes in elections.
Republican primaries.
I think it's younger people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, that's him trying to appeal to younger audiences. It's him trying to be on the internet audience, which it's not going to win him elections. So
well, younger people are notoriously depressed and have reason to be depressed. I mean, I was depressed all through my 20s, right? It seems very normal. You're at the bottom of the economic ladder. You're struggling to get your foothold with relationships. Like there's just the world's set against you when you're that young. And now you have the internet, so you can go and complain about it online, which is great. So
yep.
I feel like this is why I'm skeptical of the meaning crisis, because I think it's just it's like growing up. It's like a normal part of life.
I guess we'll find out. We'll find out. I mean, obviously, a lot of people have problems buying homes and starting families later than the generations previous, and that's going to exacerbate and prolong meaning crises in our country.
Of course. Yes.
So, yeah, I'm not sure it's just like, the growing pains of the next generation. I think it is definitely being exacerbated by the changes in culture, social media, the way people are interacting with other people, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So we'll see. Then there was the question about funding Ukraine, which is kind of an interesting, how is this going to play? Because obviously, again, we get kind of like the mainstream versus the internet conversations very different. Scott was very in favor of supporting Ukraine, but then he changed the question to supporting Israel, which is kind of interesting. Then we had Vivek, who is taking the very strong internet position that the Ukraine sucks. He literally called the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, a Nazi.
I heard that.
Weird.
The Jewish Nazi.
Yeah, that was a weird.
The Russian-speaking Jewish Nazi.
Yeah, that was a very weird statement. I don't think that's going to help him. I think that's going to hurt him going forward in the election. I think people on the right will use that to attack him. Calling Zelensky a Nazi, I don't think is the way to go. And he also implied he wanted to give the Donbass region to Russia. And then he said that the Ukraine-Russian war is not a battle of good versus evil. And he's against funding Ukraine. I was just like, this is just not, I don't think this is, I think there's ways in which you can try to play like the people who are maybe tepid about supporting Ukraine. I don't think just saying like Zelensky's a Nazi, give everything to Russia. I don't think that's the strategy. That's my guess.
He basically did give Putin the Donbass. That was not cool.
I was pretty surprised by that.
That was not cool. Giving away other people's country.
Well, okay. I'm trying to, when I analyze this, I'm trying to detach my opinions from it. Cause like, obviously I don't support that, but I'm like, what is like the Republican, but like, what do a Republican voter think about that as a base? And I don't like, there's a way to be isolationist without sounding weak and without sounding like you just want to like, appeasement. And he just sounded weak and appeasement-y in that the way his answer was structured. He could have structured it like, we need to take care of America first and American jobs first. And, like we should be supporting Americans before we support foreign countries. Like, I'm just kind of shocked. Like that, why was that not the answer? Instead, he's like very specifically saying Zelensky's a Nazi. Russia's not bad. Give them Donbass. And I was like, that's a fucking weird answer, but okay.
Yeah, it's almost like he got his position straight off of the internet.
I guess you're right. So then Nikki responded by saying Putin and she are salivating at the idea of Vivek becoming president.
She finished him, I feel, in this response.
There you go.
She also framed it, hitting that loyalty foundation for all those Republicans out there. She said, America never leaves our friends.
Right.
Yeah, right. She's like, we have an obligation here. We've made an obligation when we make friends in the world, we become bound to them. And I was like, yeah, she's totally working that loyalty foundation.
Yeah, she is. It is at odds with a lot of the right-wing isolationism at the moment. So it's good that she's doing that for persuasion, but I don't know how effective it will be. Because a lot of people don't care about loyalty to foreign countries at the moment.
Yeah, the loyalty foundation really only works if you perceive whoever the target of the foundation is as a friend or
deserving. Sure.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of the people, yes, it's definitely not going to work on. Right. But I just think it's interesting that she's hitting it anyway.
Well,
because
you're right.
There's so little moral content in any of these things. Christie did the same exact thing because he cited, 31 years ago, we made a promise. So now our status, our integrity is on the line. So even if we think they're pieces of shit now, 31 years later, we still made a promise. Is America the type of place that keeps its promises? Are we the type of place that runs? That welshes on our obligations?
I don't think that's going to be persuasive at all. But that was what he was doing.
Well, it's not persuasive coming out of Christie, but
no, what? Yeah, but Nikki, she did do a smart thing where she said, "I don't want to give Ukraine cash. I want to give them weapons." Which is, I think, that's kind of like the way to like parse the middle ground for people who are like, we shouldn't be giving them more money. It's like, well, we're not. We're just giving them a bunch of guns. Like, what do we have a bunch of guns lying around, so we just give them the Ukraine. Like I'm like, okay, that's more persuasive. That's kind of a smart way to split the baby.
Sure.
DeSantis had a good answer to this. I thought he did a split the baby thing, but he did it in a smart way because he's the only one who started off his answer right in the beginning saying, "We will not send U.S. troops to Ukraine," which is very smart because that's like, people have this fear about that. He made it very clear in the beginning, no troops to Ukraine. He did say we're going to send troops to our southern border.
Right.
And then it's interesting, even though Vivek is trying to be Trump Jr., he gave the most Trump answer where he just said, we need to bring the war to an end with no explanation of what that means. Then he blamed Europe for Europe not stepping in enough and then said China bad. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. It was very obviously, you're trying to make a splash. So it was very, ho-hum. But I guess, if you're paying attention,
right,
the best part of this exchange was Fafake got cucked 2 times trying to call on the teacher.
Yeah, he did.
Can I respond, please?
So since both Haley attacked Vivek and then Christie also, he didn't use his name, but he was talking about Vivek, saying that Vivek is immature for suggesting be given to the demands of dictators. And he kept saying, can I respond? Can I respond? Teacher, can I respond? But they didn't let him respond, so it
didn't pan out for him.
No. Then we already talked about the Taiwan thing. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, not really.
Okay. Then they brought up TikTok, and so we had the question: should we ban TikTok? Okay.
Right.
And it was interesting. So they finally, I guess, because of the Israel thing, the Israel Hamas thing, like there's this, like finally the Republican politicians are starting to pick up on the idea that TikTok is not just bad because it sells our information, but because it actually changes the discourse. It influences the minds of the young people. They finally have decided to mention this because they all talked about it, which was kind of shocking. Christie right at the bat says, he literally said, it's not just about selling information. They're polluting the minds of our children. And he talked about, a lot of people feel like the anti-Semitic or pro-Hamas stuff is coming from TikTok.
I 100% agree with that. I don't know if you feel the same.
Well, I don't know. I haven't been researching it to see if that's the case. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't know for a fact. But I would guess China obviously doesn't, that they would be trying to sow more woke bullshit.
Of course, it's in their interest.
Yeah. He criticized Trump for not banning TikTok. I don't remember if he said he would ban TikTok. I guess he's implying that he would ban TikTok because he's blaming Trump for not. DeSantis said China was bad, but he didn't answer the question about whether he would ban TikTok or not.
He punted?
He punted. He totally dodged that. It's very suspect. I was like, okay, total dodge. Nikki, then that's when Nikki had the thing where she played the clip where she didn't really answer the question either. She just kind of, responded to other people attacking her, which we already talked about. And then that led to the calling Vivek a scum line. But the thing that was interesting is that if you notice from the clip that we watched in the beginning of the stream, Vivek accused her of dodging the question, but he didn't answer the question himself either. He didn't say, obviously he's not in favor of banning TikTok.
He's on TikTok.
Because he's on TikTok.
Right.
So, and then Scott gave a very strong maybe to the answer of banning TikTok. So the only person on the stage that said that they were in favor of banning TikTok was Christie. The other ones all just didn't answer the question.
I'm in favor of banning TikTok. I guess I'm a Chris Christie supporter now.
I'm in favor of banning it too. Completely, yeah. Okay,
Sad.
There was questions about Venezuela. I really have didn't nothing of that was interesting. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Well, I'm more interested in talking about the Social Security stuff, obviously, because it's economics. But
okay.
So then we'll skip there's to energy. Do you have anything to say on energy?
Well, no, there was that interaction between Nikki where she attacked DeSantis for okay, I guess there actually is something I want to talk about with this. So, and it is kind of related to other questions when they were asking about inflation. So basically, when they talk about, there's a question of how do you help Americans with the high cost of living in the short term? And they all have the exact same answer. Every single person on stage. We need to drill more oil because the price of oil increases the price of everything else, which is true. But they're all kind of like, I feel like they're all bullshitting because as we talked about on the stream before in the past, yes, drilling more oil increases supply, obviously, and that's going to lower price. But you have to compete on the global market with everyone else producing oil. And if you have OPEC doing their price manipulation shit, like America's not going to be able to compete directly with OPEC. Like, even if we drastically increase oil drilling, it takes a very long time for oil production. But even then, we're not going to be able to match like the entirety of OPEC. And so none of them are talking about the actual real possible solution, which would be to make it that that oil in America first has to be sold to Americans detached from the rest of the global market.
Ban oil exports.
Yeah, right. Because that would be the real way to drastically lower oil costs in America. Now, obviously, the oil companies would be very against this, but
yeah, it's weird that some of the Republicans are allowed to be isolationists on the war thing, but they can't be isolationist on the energy thing.
Yes,
like, they can't. Yeah. They can't tell ExxonMobil, hey, you can't sell that oil in Europe where you can get more money for it. You have to sell it here where you actually got it. Why is that? Why not?
And it shows to me that none of them are really serious about like going after big business, kind of the way that they're trying to claim. Because I mean, you have the perfect slogan, you know, oil from America stays in America. You know,
right?
Boom, drop it out there, right? It's like, why are we drilling oil in our country and selling it to people, you know, somewhere across the globe?
America's oil is for Americans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
American resources for Americans, you know, there's like a million ways to spin this that people should be in favor of. So, yeah.
Well, they're talking about decoupling. All of them talked about decoupling from China on the TikTok stuff, right?
Well, no, Nikki talked about decoupling trade from China. She was the only one, I believe, that specifically said that. The other people were kind of like wishy-washy about it.
On decoupling? I swear.
I think maybe Scott did. Nikki's the strongest against China. She said, it was for TikTok, it was for fentanyl. She said, until China stops sending fentanyl across the border, that we should stop all trade with China. Which, this was actually, I think, when Vivek is not attacking directly, he's doing good, because he brought up a good point where he's like, that's impossible and stupid because we get way too many things from China. You know, people are talking about building up the military. We get military equipment
from China.
We get I'm assuming Vivek is telling the truth. He could just be lying, but he's saying we get too much medicine from China. We get too many things that we use to build our jets and boats from China. So the whole idea that we can just like turn off the switch to trading with China, like on a moment's notice, is not possible.
I don't think that's the case.
Okay.
I mean, I read Zahan's book, and he seems optimistic that decoupling will be pretty easy for us because we have so many natural resources here.
Mm-hmm.
So
we'll see, I guess.
The idea that they have, I mean, they're even talking about like these rare earth minerals and stuff like that, but they're found huge deposits of those in places in America. So I feel like we're set. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see. Okay, then we can move on to
I think it's just scaremongering is what I feel that he's doing. So
maybe. Then we move on to Social Security. And the question was, should we raise the retirement age?
Right.
And the answers were Christie said, yes, you should raise your retirement age for people who are in their 30s now. So not people that are like about to get it. And that rich people should no longer get Social Security, which is
right. Means testing Social Security.
Right.
Yes.
Nikki said raise age and cut entitlements.
Right. She said Social Security is going to be bankrupt in 10 years and Medicare bankrupt in 8 years.
Yes.
She wants to pay down the debt.
She wants to pay down the debt. Right.
It's like, we got to pay this debt off. Which means we got to tax all your savings down to zero.
Yes. Yes. Vivek said he wants the zero-based budget idea, which
he's explained. Look, he's explained it for the first time. I've heard him say it 3 or 4 times. No, he explained it in
the second debate. What do you mean?
No, he didn't explain it in a way that was legible.
Oh, okay.
So zero-based budgeting. When they do the budget, they basically start from the exact same budget as last year and then make minor changes to it because the budget is so complicated that what Vivek is proposing is literally impossible. I wrote LOL.
Yeah, like it would take longer than a year to figure out.
It would take 10 years. Yes.
For the year. Yeah, if you started from zero, I know.
So he's saying, look, I do this in my corporation. Yes, you're one corporation with limited inputs, limited outputs. You're talking about the federal government.
Yeah, I know. It's stupid. Well, then he followed that up with a very other stupid idea, which was he said he wanted to do a 75% reduction in federal employees, which I was like, oh, I mean, that's going to sound nice to like libertarians, but that's obviously never going to happen and completely fake.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Like half of Congress would be voted out. Like they just fired half the people in their district.
Yeah, and that'd be so destructive to the economy. 75% reduction in federal employees.
Unemployment would go up to 20%.
Yeah, it'd be like,
overnight.
Okay, you just caused a massive like recession. Good job. Like it's like insane. I was like, okay, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, it seemed like fake ideas.
I just read this book on incrementalism, and they go through the entire budgeting process, and you're like, wow, this is insane. I was like, okay, there's not enough congressional subcommittees in the world to audit all these these government agents.
Well, but see, that's kind of the problem. Like, and I agree there is a problem because it is such a big, unwieldy thing. There needs to be some way to deal with it, and we don't have a way to deal with it correctly right now. Because it can't just be this thing that's just too big to audit. So I don't know. I mean, if they got to just do it piecemeal every, year by year, just got to piecemeal it, fine. But they got to do something.
That's what they do, though.
Right.
And it seems to work, right?
I mean, I don't know. I guess. There's still a lot of pork and bullshit, I assume, in the budget. So.
There's been some cutting.
Yeah.
But the way to cut it is just categorically across the board.
Right.
Obama did some of that.
Yeah. Okay. And then Scott said he would protect Social Security.
Right. Let me talk to my mama.
I love this. He said, this is so funny. He said, I will protect Social Security, and to help the fact that that it will go out of, go bankrupt or whatever, I will cut taxes.
I know. He brought up the laugher curve.
I was like, oh, all right. I might have the exact opposite effect, I guess, but sure, whatever.
Look, I like tax cuts.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
I think it's a good policy proposal myself. Okay. But
then DeSantis said that he made the joke that he's like, I'm the governor of Florida. I'm not going to change the age of Social Security in any way.
That joke hit.
Yes,
I laughed out loud when I heard that.
And then
my whole state is retired.
Yeah, it was like, what are you doing to me? Then he talked about, again, reducing inflation would be the way to deal with that. So.
Right. So the frustrating thing for me, and we don't have to go deep into the weeds on this, but nobody is really addressing the actual issue. Until you talk about demographics, just this whole idea that they're only conceptualizing Social Security as the amount of digits in some bank account somewhere. Just they're not even on the playing field for dealing with the problem.
Sure.
But whatever. This plays well to the Republicans. The Republicans they eat it up.
Yeah. It plays. I think. I don't know where. I can't predict whether Republican voters care about cutting Social Security or raising the retirement age for people in their 30s. I don't know if they care about that.
Of course they don't. Of course they don't. All those voters are Democrats. This is how politics works.
Yeah. So
we take from you. We take from your party. You try to take from our party.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah. Okay. So I think all their answers will probably be fine with most Republicans.
Look, if you're under 30 and you're voting for Republicans, get ready to get screwed.
Well, Scott actually, he was the only one that brought up a good reason to not raise the age. He said that if you, work on a farm or on some place with like physical labor, those extra 2 or 3 years could be really detrimental to you.
Right.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Okay, let's talk about the cartels. So this was an interesting question that DeSantis, Nikki, and Vivek answered, and they all gave very interesting answers that I didn't expect. So the question was, will the U.S. use military forces to attack the cartels in Mexico? And so DeSantis kind of started off very strong, saying the elites don't give a damn about people dying of fentanyl. And I was like, okay. But then here's what's interesting. In previous debates, DeSantis was very strong about sending military into Mexico, right? And now some change has occurred. Somewhere between here and the previous debates, some change has occurred. And he no longer wants to send military forces into Mexico, saying that he'd only send forces to the border to stop them from coming in. So I am interested in why he's changed his position so clearly on this issue.
Somebody told him, hey, what you're proposing is an act of war with Mexico.
Well,
right. Somebody clued him in, someone at the State Department.
I guess nobody clued Nikki in, because then she said, no, we're going to go to the source. We're going to stop trade with China until they stop sending fentanyl to Mexico. And we are going to send the military into Mexico. So she didn't change her stance at all. She's still like, we're going to invade Mexico with special forces and take out the cartels.
Go, 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 girl.
So I was like, okay, that's interesting. Okay, so we have very, there's a change. I am interested why there was this change in DeSantis, no change in Nikki. And then Vivek had a very bizarre answer to this question. I don't know if you remember it. So at first he starts off normal. He's like, we're going to use the U.S. military to seal our southern border. I'm like, okay. So he's not going to go into Mexico. He's going to seal the border. But then he's like, listen, too much energy is focused on the southern border. We're forgetting the northern border. We need to build a wall across the U.S.-Canadian border.
What?
And I was like, what?
What the heck?
I was like, wait a minute. What is happening here? We need to build a wall between us and Canada? I mean, maybe that would, keep all the cold air out or something. But I was
as
like...
As long as we put the thermostat on our side, right?
Yeah. There you go. I was like, what? Okay, we're going to build, like the wall, like in Game of Thrones. I have a big ice wall between the U.S. and Canada. I don't know. I thought it was such a weird fucking position that I can't imagine for the life of me would ever be popular. And I don't even know where that comes from. That's not even like an internet position. I was like, what? This is so strange. All right. Keep the Leafs out, I guess.
Yeah, I'm a fan of new and interesting positions, but this one did throw me for a loop. I think the thing about the new and interesting positions is they've got to at least seem necessary, right? Necessary or useful. This didn't seem necessary or useful.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Weird.
It stuck out. It was it obviously stuck out for you. It stuck out for me.
I was just like, I was shocked. I just sat there like, oh, I didn't expect the wall for Canada. Like, all right, I guess. Well, just it's strange because I don't even see how that would appeal to anyone.
Ramaswamy this whole debate was just a catastrophe for him.
So then we had the abortion question. So that, as I'm sure you guys have heard.
Look, we have to mention the bioterrorism thing because this was another one. This is the thing about Ramaswamy. I felt like he had like 7 or 8 moments that he had carved out as this is the thing that people will be talking about tomorrow. And really none of them hit. The overdose. So DeSantis had told an anecdote about some dad whose son had overdosed, which is obviously horrible. Vivek has the same antidote, but he's saying, look, we shouldn't call it an overdose because the person took a drug that they weren't expecting to take, and that's closer to bioterrorism, and we should call it bioterrorism. So that is he basically stopped everything to kind of say, we should redefine this right now. But
I didn't have a problem with that. I thought that's fine to say that. I don't think it's gonna hit. I don't think I'm gonna be talking about that. The only one of his moments I think people would talk about was his Dick Cheney in heels moment. People will talk about, but then they'll also say like, oh, Nikki had her girl boss response, which I didn't think was very good, but I think people will say that it was a very good response regardless. So.
That's it. That's an interesting part of this is because I do think the Dick Cheney in heels was the thing that everyone would talk about until Nikki Haley said I wear stilettos as ammunition. which
And then called them
completely
scum. Yeah.
right. Yes, exactly.
Right.
Which completely erased all of that. So I do think Nikki Haley is going to, people are going to be talking more about her lines than his lines.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then so we'll talk about abortion now, I
Do
guess.
you think they're going to,
What?
do you think the government is going to start calling the fentanyl crisis bioterrorism? I don't think it's really going to happen.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think they will. But I mean, it would be good. It would be maybe a good idea for the Republicans to call it that. It could be a good strategy.
Really?
Sure.
Oh, I think it's just okay.
Well, it depends what the policy is.
I think it's ridiculous.
If you want to send troops into Mexico, I think you want to label it terrorism because that's the
Right.
justification, right? To sending special forces to Mexico. There's a terrorist attack on our country.
Right.
But other than that, I don't think it matters that much.
Yeah.
One way or
Okay.
the other. Okay.
Abortion.
So there was a bunch of Republican losses on abortion issues that happened yesterday that everyone was talking about. And so the question was how do Republicans deal with this abortion question, which seems to be kind of killing the Republicans in all these elections, which is something your boy Sitch predicted. And people were like, Sitch, you're wrong. And I'm like, okay, you know what you're talking about. And time and time again, Sitch is proven correct on this abortion thing, just every time it comes up. Okay.
Can I shake your hand, Sitch? I really
You can. You can shake my digital hand. Okay.
I want
Come
to
on,
so bad.
Shake my hand.
You nailed it. You totally nailed it on this.
I don't know. It's sad. Like
people are still in denial that this is going on. It's so happening.
Yeah, overturning 50 years of like precedent for something that's pretty radical is going to have a profound impact on people. So
yeah, women are up in arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So their positions were DeSantis said that he was pro-life, but then he kind of wavers and he's kind of trying to be moderate-y, and he's like, well, let the states do whatever the hell they wanted to. And he actually, interestingly, he criticized softly and kind of vaguely, so people maybe didn't catch it. He actually criticized Republican states for the wording and way in which they tried to pass some of their anti-abortion legislation, which I thought was fascinating that he did that. But then he ended it by saying Democrats, won't choose where life begins, which is true. And I think that's where the Democrats are kind of screwing themselves on the issue too. And then you had Nikki, who gave the most moderate position on it, which I actually think is too moderate. And I think this was a mistake from a persuasion point of view. She said that she's pro-life, but that she doesn't judge anyone who is pro-choice. And this is where she said that we need some kind of federal consensus, and we need to come together as Democrats and Republicans and figure out the whole abortion issue, which I don't think that's going to fly in the Republican Party. That'd be my guess.
You think they're going to be mad about that?
Yeah.
Well, you're saying it was a bunch of donor stands, but that was probably the loudest cheer of the night when she finished her stance on abortion.
Really?
She said, stop trying to divide America. And yeah, the whole audience cheered.
That's makes it sound like plants to me. I can't imagine that's the big applause line for the Republican audience. Stop trying to divide America on abortion. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird thing to applaud for, I guess.
Well,
I think.
It could be. They could be plants. It definitely could be plants. Who knows?
I feel like the abortion issue is the albatross for the Republican Party, because I'm not sure there's a clear winning take on the issue, except to just shrug and say, the winning take is to just say, let the states do what the states do. That's like literally the only answer I think you can give. I don't know if there's another answer that they should give. Let the states decide. I'm running for president. This is what I would say if I was a Republican candidate. I'm running for president of the United States of America. For 50 years, we Republicans argued that it should be up to the states and their voters to decide how to handle the abortion question. And now the states finally have that power. Good for them.
We have won.
I will leave it to the states to make those decisions. Okay.
Winning.
Yeah.
Although we're losing every election.
I know, but you don't
anyway.
say that. Right. We don't say that. And then Scott walked his position back. So I guess he got scared from the losses from the previous night, because in the previous debates, I vaguely recall him being at least floating the idea of a federal abortion ban, period. And now he was saying that he only wanted a 15-week ban. So he kind of softened his stance, which is interesting.
Don't you love it?
Yes.
Politicians respond to polls.
I know, right? Well, elections too. And then Vivek's answer was to, and I looked this up because I was like, this can't be true. But he was lying. He said that Ohio passed a state amendment allowing abortion up to the moment of conception, which is not true. Ohio passed an amendment that it did say that a woman or a person had a right to get an abortion, but it explicitly said that this did not apply, that Ohio could still pass laws limiting abortions past viability. So that was not a fact check wrong. That was not true. And then he brought up again that Republicans have a culture of losing. So not sure that's going to play well.
Right. As if he didn't hit him enough in the beginning. He's like, let me just piss in your face.
And then Christie, whenever he's talked about this, it's very interesting. He's had the same position. I think it's a good position. I don't think it's like a good position for winning the presidency, but I think it's a good moral position, which is shocking coming from Christie, which is that he says, Republicans should be pro-life for the child's entire lives, and how we need to give support to young children and also children who have drug problems. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's great. I think that's wonderful. I don't think anyone's going to vote for that, but I think that's a good position to have.
Christie sounded like a Democrat.
He did.
That's exactly what they've been saying forever.
I was shocked. I was like, oh, okay.
I've heard Jank say 1,000,000 times, Republicans don't care about kids. They don't care about kids as soon as they're born. And then you have Christie here saying, look, we care about kids for their entire lives.
Yep.
He's basically fighting that stereotype, but
he is.
Look,
yeah.
I don't think it's going to work out.
No. Okay. Then we have our closing statements. And we start with our good friend, Sleepy Scott. Sleepy Scott said, listen, God will save all of us. Okay. Everyone in the auditorium, bow your heads in prayer and pray to God to deliver America from evil. And then all of a sudden, like choir music started playing in the background. People were like, hallelujah. It was just, I couldn't believe it. I was impressed with the production value. Confetti came down, giant Jesus on a cross came down from like the ceiling behind him. So I give Scott a lot of props for the production of his last statement, but I still don't think the "We Need God in America" is the winning slogan right now in 2024. Just 2023, 2024. Just my guess.
It's surprising how far the Republican Party has moved away from that, which is probably a good thing.
Well, they have to because of Trump.
Well, and because that constituency are the hardliners on abortion, and now they're in this quandary with abortion. So
yeah, but you don't need to do a lot probably to win those voters.
Well, I mean, if you're screaming God from the rooftops, and then you're like pro-choice.
No, but I mean,
don't you think it's a little contradictory?
So if you're Republican and you're like, okay, well, I need to win in these swing states, that Trump lost to Biden in, right? I mean, I could be wrong, but are those the states where there's enough of a super Christian evangelical turnout that you can just start praising God again and again and again, and that's going to bring enough turnout to get you the win in those states? It just doesn't seem to be a good strategy to me.
Look, I don't think the point that I'm bringing up is catering to those voters. Those are the same voters that are going to want a hardline stance on abortion.
Which
so
Republicans are afraid of doing anyway. Yeah, I got it.
Right. Yeah. Sure. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm saying they're going to be tepid about engaging that voter base.
Yeah. No, I agree completely. And also, I would imagine that being a real big God candidate is going to turn off swing voters.
Yes.
I would guess. So not a winning strategy, unless
they're
he's running
weighing
for
their
Trump's
options.
VP, which is very possible. Christie had a very incredibly boring closing statement. I fell asleep. I don't know if you had put any notes there for it, but
No, I
it's all
didn't.
about unity and coming together as a country. I'm like, that's so wonderful, but I'm a cynical asshole and I don't care. It's
Of
like, good for
course.
you. He said he was running on honesty and coming together as a country. I'm like, that's wonderful. You know, he's doing a lot to rehabilitate his image of being like a moral person, going from like being the hyper corrupt guy. So I wish him well. Then we had Vivek, who said we're at war at home with the fringe minorities who hate Americans. You know, talking about woke people, which is good. And then he said, "Stop the deep state, screw China." And I was like, okay. But he did say something that was interesting. And I do think his closing statement was actually pretty good, even though a lot of his performance was awful in the debate. And he ended it with saying the Democrats are being cowards because we all know that Joe Biden will not be their nominee because he's too old and decrepit, and you know Kamala Harris is running the show now. Democrats need to stop being pussies and tell us who they actually plan to run for president.
He even said that.
He did.
He
Yeah.
said, stop being such giant vaginas.
He did. And he actually brought out like he had like a little plastic vagina. Like he had a little pocket pussy that he pulled out.
And he said,
and
this is you, Democrats.
And it was painted blue and it said Democrats on it.
He put a little pussy hat on the vagina.
It had a little pink pussy. And he said, Democrats, here you are right here. And he pointed to it. He squeezed it. And then he tossed it over to DeSantis. He said, go to town on this, buddy. You know, with you, I know you got your heels on, so go to town on it.
He said, DeSantis, you dropped this.
There you go. But no, I think it was actually a good closing statement. And that was a good point from the bring up, because like there's been all this talk. It was very interesting. David Axelrod came out and he was kind of like I'm sorry, Axelrod, thank you. Came out and he was kind of like crapping on Joe Biden. And it seemed like that kind of sent a signal that made it like allowable for other people on the left who are in the mainstream to like question whether Biden would actually run or not. And so for Vivek to use that to talk about like, like to kind of think past the sale and say, like obviously he's not going to be the candidate. Like who the fuck are you running? I don't know. I thought it was a good closing statement. So I give Vivek points for that. Persuasive points.
Biden's going to be the candidate though, right? How does Biden exit the race? I guess if he dies,
he just says, I'm too old, and he exits the race.
Okay. So you think it's good to do it sneak attack style, or he just is waiting till the last minute? You think if he plans to bow out now, he's just going to wait until the last minute? So whatever candidate it is has no time to...
I don't know. I mean, he's got to do it soon. If he doesn't do it soon, he's not doing it, right?
Right. I guess if he waits, then he basically can just select the nominee, right? If he becomes the nominee by default and then decides to get out of the race, he can just pick whoever he wants, right?
I was going to ask. I don't know what happens. So if he retains president, if he says he's going to run, so there's no there's no voting for the primary.
Right.
And then he wins it, and then he drops out. I have no clue what happens at that point.
Right.
So
we should look into that.
We should. I don't think that will happen, though. I think that's cutting it too close.
Nah, he's going to be in.
You're probably right. I would lean more towards him staying in, but I think it's a bad idea.
But this election is going to be crazy because I think he's going to stay in, and I'm more confident that he's going to stay in than Trump is actually going to win the nomination.
Interesting.
I think one of these other people could win the nomination. Whether they do or don't, if it's Trump or DeSantis or Haley, Biden's poll numbers are going to start looking terrifying to the Democrats. So I think there's going to be a lot of scrambling that we're going to witness, and it's just, it's going to be crazy because I don't even think Biden is competent for campaigning.
Mm-hmm.
So if his poll numbers start to sag, like he's probably going to make some feeble effort to campaign more, and it's just going to be abysmal.
Yeah.
It's going to make it worse.
Yep.
So
I agree.
yeah,
I agree completely. Yeah.
so I just, yeah. So we're in for a crazy ride.
Well, here's what I'll say regarding whether he leaves or not. I think that's really dependent on what's going on behind the scenes. Is he really as enfeebled as everyone thinks he is?
Oh, he's pulling a Willy Wonka on us, you think?
No, I don't think that. And when Axelrod makes his statement, is he just looking at polls because Biden's doing very bad on the polls, or does he know behind the scenes that Biden is like not capable of going to these states and campaigning? Because you bring up a great point. If he's slipping in the polls and he literally can't campaign the way you're supposed to, then the Democrats are just handing the win over to whoever the nominee is.
Well, it's going to start looking more and more like that. I think this is why I think chances are Gavin Newsom is working through back channels with the Democratic Party to be kind of the understudy candidate. So he's ready to go. I think he's even doing a debate with Ron DeSantis, isn't he? I think that's still on. So
it is, but it kept getting pushed back, which makes me question the usefulness of it.
Well, he came out and made a very strong statement that made me think, okay, well, the debate's off. Newsom came out and said, yeah, Ron DeSantis is basically an idiot for debating me. And I thought, okay, well, that makes the debate that much harder for DeSantis to do, right?
November 30th. It's set. There's a date, but it's so late in the game. It's kind of interesting.
Well, we'll see if it happens. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's set.
I think it's a good idea. What is there to lose?
Well, DeSantis is stupid for doing it.
So you agree with Gavin?
Yeah, he is. Why DeSantis gains nothing by doing it, unless
attention. What are you talking about?
No. Here's why DeSantis is probably his thought process.
An opportunity to make a splash, an opportunity to take over the news.
He thinks you're right. It's an opportunity to take over the news. He thinks Gavin Newsom is going to be the secret person to replace to replace Biden. DeSantis thinks he's going to replace Trump. So he's like, this is like a signal to everyone that like this is the first presidential debate, like the real first presidential debate.
Yeah, it's talking past the sale. It's great.
That's true. So maybe it's a good idea for DeSantis to do that. I think Newsom. I think anyone will be better. Not anyone. I think most people will be better than Biden. I'm not a big Newsom fan. I think he will be better than Biden because he has a pulse and he doesn't look like he's going to die. But I think the crime stuff is going to just be so massively killer to him. Yeah, I think he's going to get just annihilated on crime.
Anna hates Newsom.
Right. So
with the burning passion of 1,000 suns. She can't stand that guy.
Yeah, so I think if it wasn't for all the crime stuff, governor of California, blue state, big blue state, like, okay, it makes sense. I think the crime's just going to really just annihilate him in the election, but we'll see.
What will his nickname be if it's Trump and Newsom?
Nuisance? I don't know.
You guessed it. It's exactly right. Look, it writes itself.
It's
Gavin Newsom.
It's going to be something about he's gonna figure out some way to say soft on crime, Newsom.
Oh, okay.
Or something. Soft on crime, Gavin. Something. It'll have something. It doesn't have to rhyme. It doesn't have to be. But anyway, okay. So then we had Nikki. She gave an awful closing statement, in my opinion, because she said. Her literal first words were, "The world is on fire." Okay, so she's getting everyone like be afraid. The world is on fire. And then she said, "We have to defend and defeat terrorism and socialism." I was happy that she said socialism. She said, "The world is very scary." Ooh, the world is super, super scary. I'm like, okay, the world's scary. What are we gonna do about it? And then she said, "We need to get back to the soul of America." And I was like, okay, so the world is scary. Too much change. We need to go back to tradition. But then she immediately bungles the message because the next thing she says is, we can't have 20th century candidates. We need to be looking forward to 21st century candidates. I said, wait, you just said that the world is scary. We need to go back to the soul of America, but now we need to look forward to new candidates. What the fuck are you talking about?
Right. Kind
So,
of contradictory messaging there, right?
yes. And I didn't even know what she meant by that. Is she saying that Trump is a 20th century candidate or Biden is because they're old? I mean, she's not that young. I mean, obviously she's younger than them, but she's not some like, spring chicken or something. So I just thought it was a weird, I thought it was a weird closing statement to do the ooga booga, everything is scary, because I'll be real. I don't think people are going to vote for a woman because they're scared, like on a most base level.
Right.
So I don't think that's the right angle for her to play. The world is a scary place, so vote for me, Nikki Haley, a woman, when there's never been a woman president in the United States.
There's
Not,
been some strong women.
of course, but not there hasn't been a U.S. female president. So I don't think that's a good ploy in my estimation.
Okay.
And then DeSantis, he gave a very kind of boring, the most standard political answer you could ever give. I thought it was very weak. It was so standard. It was vanilla. It was so weak. He was like, I will fight for you. I will take the hits for you. I'm a good guy and you should trust me. I was like, okay, I guess, whatever.
Yeah, I
Put me
don't
to
like
sleep.
that. I will fight for you. I'm your fighter.
He gave the jank
I'm your
answer.
Pokemon.
Yeah.
I'm
me
your
in, coach.
gladiator.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm your Pokemon. I like that. He gave the Pokemon answer.
He did. Yeah.
Yes.
Look, I don't like that answer. I don't
Right.
think it really hits on any moral foundations.
I'll cast Thunderbolt on Joe Biden. Okay. He's a water type. He's weak
right.
to it.
I think it could have been much better.
True.
You know me, I like the morally rich statements that they can make.
Yeah, there was nothing. It was a shockingly awful closing statement. There was nothing moral. There's no moral fiber to it. Nothing to grab onto.
Right.
So
This is your time to do it's morning in America. We're all in this together.
all of their closing statements are pretty weak, in my opinion.
Yep, I agree.
So, but here's the real question: if all the Republican candidates and Joe Biden were Pokemon, what type of Pokemon would they be?
Let's read super chats.
That's the real question for our chat to figure out.
Well, first of all, the poll turned out to be interesting because maybe Adam's left-wing moral intuitions are. This is where you see that our audience is 60% right-wing. Because they're like, Ron DeSantis. How many votes do we have? Oh, it's 458 votes, and Nikki Haley has 44%. As the question is, who was better in the debate? Nikki Haley at 44%, Ron DeSantis at 56%. So Ron DeSantis, it's not a blowout, but he's considerably ahead, 10 points ahead. So
there you go. We had some good answers. PC for Jar says Biden would be a ghost type Pokemon.
Of course. Of course.
That's good. And then and Kurt said Biden would be Snorlax. So that's pretty good.
Oh yeah, Snorlax for sure.
I like it. Okay. Good answer.
Sleepy Joe Snorlax.
Sleepy Joe, yeah. Okay. Xerxes, thank you so much for the $100. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Xerxes.
very generous.
Thank you. Says, hey guys, just got myself a new job as of last week. Well, congratulations. Here's hoping it can cover all my growing expenses. I want to give this to you both for helping me get through the hectic first week with your show. It really helps the day flow smoothly. All hail S-Class and A-Team. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's very generous of you. And congratulations. That's wonderful.
Another person listening at work, which I always love.
That's always the move, man. Toxic Mix, thank you for the $50. Says Haley won't get MAGA voters, but she's still getting the donors because she's the most likely to just go along with whatever foreign policy the old GOP wants. Only value in her winning is the inevitable lefty meltdown over the first female president being GOP.
Oh, yes.
That's true. We didn't really consider that element of it, which would be kind of hilarious.
That might actually hurt her with the the female Democratic voters that we had talked about, her actually winning over, because Democrats really, really want that first female president to be a Democrat. So
Right.
it might be painful for them to pull the lever for the first female president being a Republican, even if they like her a lot.
Mm-hmm. Maybe, I don't know. Like the people that would switch votes, I don't think they'll consider that.
Really?
Yeah.
What will your mom do?
Well, first of all, there's no way my parents would ever vote Republican ever,
Not in a
ever.
million,
So that
not in a
doesn't matter.
million years.
Yeah, no.
Was
They're
your-
not in that demographic of like potential swing votes. They are
Right.
blue no matter who people.
Well, no, there
so-
are independent voters. Some people call them centrists, who vote. They've voted for both parties and they will vote for both parties. So she could definitely win women over in that category. I just don't know if she's going to win female Democrats over.
Well,
but I
she-
think, look,
yeah.
I think she could. Well, I think the
I mean, it depends if it's Biden, I guess, or Newsom. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not confident. I really don't think she can win the Republican primary. I mean,
you think it's just going to be Trump?
well, I think
think
it's going to be
Trump
Trump or
can't lose?
DeSantis. I think it's just going to be Trump or DeSantis.
Okay.
It's hard for me to see it being anyone else. I don't think that the donors are giving her money just because of like foreign policy. I don't think the Republican donors care enough about that.
All they care is who can win. That's
Yeah,
all
I
they
think
care about.
yes, I think that's exactly it. They care about who they think who can win. They're concerned that DeSantis is kind of stalled. And so they're just trying to move where they think there's new energy. And so Nikki's been getting a lot of positive press because there's like left-wing people that appeals to her. Left-wing people like her. So then she gets more positive press. So then she goes up a little bit. And so then they start putting money into her because I don't think they're really seeing what's happening with Nikki.
There's a bunch of donor people on the sidelines too, who have not even donated.
Yeah. So
because they don't know who, if these guys have a shot. They don't want to waste their money. They don't want to give a bunch of money to Haley and she's out of the race the next day.
well, but I think that's their concerns because like at first they were all pouring money into DeSantis because they all felt like he was going to be the sane Trump essentially in their minds. And then he didn't he's kind of pulling away from Trump, but I guess maybe they just really expected him to like really suck votes away from Trump in the debates, and it obviously didn't happen. And so maybe they're just kind of scared and they're like, oh, people liking Haley. She seems like she's got a lot of energy. DeSantis is like he's like Plank from Ed and Eddie. he's not going to motivate anyone. So they're kind of afraid. But I still stand by it. It's going to either be Trump or DeSantis.
They had some bundler that they were talking to before the debate. And these bundlers, I mean, rich people can give as much money as they want to these bundlers, and they run an NGO. They don't coordinate with the candidate, but they basically run negative ads against the people they're against and positive ads for them, right? So if you're one of those people, you're going to throw $100,000 or $1 million. Who knows what they're going to give? Bill Maher gave $1 million, right, to Obama's reelection campaign somehow. You don't want to give $1 million to someone who's not even really going to win the primary. You're holding back. You're like, let's see how this plays out. I think that's happening quite a bit in this situation.
You're probably correct. Well, the only people I think that are really giving a lot of money they're the people that don't want Trump to win the primary.
Right.
Those are the people that really don't want Trump in the race. So
right. Yeah.
So yeah. Colt Hammer, thanks so much for the $22. Says, I listen to this show before I go to work and leave it on. When I get home 9 hours later, you're still streaming. Thanks for the show. And A-Team reigns supreme.
Woo! Go. Look at that. You just made Sitch depressed. You made my night. Look, now he's having a meaning crisis.
There you go. Insensitive for $20 says, TikTok isn't responsible for Gen Z supporting Hamas. It's the sentiment that Zoomers believe that white people are colonizers having no right to land they settle. They include the Jews in this. Oh, yeah, I think that's
But that's being spread all over TikTok.
Right. That's a huge part of it. But then, yeah, those Zoomers with those ideas go on TikTok and they spread that toxic idea to even like a lot of young people who are maybe not so politically indoctrinated. So definitely a big part. I mean, I've heard young people talk about like the genocide, blah 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 blah.
I'm like,
okay, Jesus.
I've also heard that China has a viral button on TikTok. They can make anyone go viral.
Yeah. Oh, incentive for $10 in the beginning says, don't forget this entire thing about TikTok was brought up to blame TikTok for Gen Z supporting Hamas. Yeah, I mean, I think it's related. I don't think it's the entire thing because obviously that's not the seed. That's not where the seed came from, but it's definitely helping spread the concept. That seems to be undeniable. Monet Mail for $2 says, DeSantis went sicko mode, not gonna lie. You went pure goblin mode in this debate. There you go. Oblivious for $10 says, Adam, doesn't MMT cause wealth inequality? Because if the spending goes to rich people and the companies and increases their asset values, won't it cause price inflation?
MMT doesn't do anything. MMT is a lens to understand the monetary system.
Mm-hmm.
So higher interest rates do cause wealth inequality because you're giving money proportionally to people who have money. So anyone who has money is getting richer.
Right.
But that's not MMT.
Yeah, but wouldn't that increase wealth inequality?
Yes, that will increase wealth inequality, but it's not MMT.
Oh, okay.
MMT is just not. MMT is just a way to understand money flows.
Osiyar for 15 months of discipline equals freedom. Thank you, Osiyar. Says, is America ready for President Mommy Haley? Listen, Nikki's not, she's not mommy material. I don't know how to break this to you. So.
Also, just on the MMT thing.
Yeah.
A lot of the spending goes to, it's like Social Security recipients. The Social Security checks is one of the biggest parts of the Treasury statement. So those Social Security checks are going to, well, I mean, generally older people have more money anyway. So it is going to rich people. But what was, is America ready for President Mommy Haley?
I said she's not mommy material. But...
Oh, she's not?
No, I don't think so.
You don't. Oh, so the real reason you don't like her, she's not hot enough. Is that what you're saying? Sounds like it.
Listen, I'm just saying. Okay. I'm just saying, maybe if she's a little hotter, I'd be more inclined to vote for her. That's what I look for in my presidential candidate.
Bad.
I want hot, thicky MILFs, okay, for president.
So bad.
That's who I want running the country.
I think she's like 56 or something.
Someone that I can think 51. About at night in bed. That's who I want to be president. Okay.
She's 51. So
there could be some hot mommy MMT 51-year-olds out there somewhere.
I mean, you're getting more into GILF territory here. Let's
I guess
be honest.
That's true. I guess that's true.
Blondie
for $10 says, Christie is trying to act like Ronald Reagan, but he's Ronald Reagan if Ronald Reagan ate Ronald Reagan. And then one or two more Ronald Reagans. And then got cast as an extra on Sopranos. There you go.
Thank you for the first super chat.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah. And that's very funny.
Very funny. Yeah. True.
Yeah, listen, if you're talking about Boebert, maybe there's some mommy that America's ready for. Okay. Some Boebert. I'm sorry, some Boebert.
I've seen that picture of Chris Christie, and it reminds me of the blueberry chick from Willy Wonka. I mean, he's real. I mean, he is round.
Verushka Salt.
Yeah.
What was the girl's name?
No, it's Veruca Salt. It is.
No, that's the one. That's the one that gets she falls down the goose chute.
Oh, okay. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
She wants the golden goose. Who is it? Bubblegum.
Violent Beauregard.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen the picture of him?
I see the picture. Yeah.
Look, he's like
he's a little blueberry.
Yes. Yeah.
I get it. No, he's a big fatty. He's a big doughboy. He's a big roly-poly. Okay.
I can't see it. I can't see that guy being president, but maybe it's just me.
There you go. He's the penguin, exactly. AKA Batosai, thanks so much for the 5 gifted memberships.
Yeah, welcome new members.
RJ McDougalheim, thank you for 4 months. Says, stop calling it isolationism. We don't want to be hermits. We just want to have our money and resources used everywhere but here. Oh, we don't want to have our money and resources used everywhere but here. Well, I mean, it depends how that's interpreted. If the interpretation is like, how do you, well, I guess it depends on what your position is. Are you still saying like, listen, we should still support, foreign excursions like Ukraine, but we need to spend money also in America? Or because if your position is we shouldn't be sending money out to foreign countries like at all, because we should be, spending on Americans first. I don't know how to interpret it other than isolationism.
Well, I think they set it up also so they're buying weapons from American weapon manufacturers and shipping those overseas. So those weapons manufacturers are going for American jobs.
Yeah, I know. I don't agree with the position, but I'm saying I'm referring to what RJ is talking about, like whether it should be called isolationism or not. I mean, I don't know what your position is personally, RJ. For most of the people that I've heard talking about this, they do take a very heavily isolationist approach of like, America should just not be sending really any foreign aid to any country, and we shouldn't really be involved in like any foreign anything. Now, obviously, a lot of what I hear is from, the internet punditry space, which is, as we just talked about, is very different than the normie space. And the internet punditry space is very isolationist from what I hear. Talk about this stuff. So,
right.
Toxic Mix.
I'm speaking to, we're doing our best to keep a lot of that money in the U.S. going towards American jobs.
Yeah,
even though the weapons are going overseas, which is addressing what he wants to happen anyway.
I'm not hearing a lot of people saying, "Listen, we can cut some of our foreign spending and then spend the rest on Americans." That's not the message I'm hearing when I hear people talk about this stuff. So
they're saying don't
send any money.
I think a lot of the foreign aid that we do is spent incorrectly anyway.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. A Toxic Mix for $10. Thank you. Says, how many billions of dollars and lives have to be spent before deciding a territory that's thoroughly occupied might be lost? Isn't considered appeasement? Well, I mean, that's a fair question. I guess well, first of all, I'd say it depends on if it's just for our perspective, because I'd say it actually depends on Ukraine, whatever the fuck. I mean, they're the one fighting the war. They do whatever they want. To me, the appeasement thing, talking about Vivek, it's not even so much whatever the strategy is, because it's very, very possible that whatever peace agreement is eventually settled upon between Ukraine and Russia ends up with Russia having the Donbass region. The appeasement part of it is the way in which that he's talking about it. For him saying Zelensky is a Nazi, Russia is not the bad guys here, and that you should just give them the Donbass, from the beginning. That's the appeasement part of it. It's not saying that, well, maybe they'll get it in some sort of settlement agreement where both sides have to come to some kind of peace agreement. It's everything else before that. That's the appeasement part of it to me.
Yeah. And I guess we're sending them military equipment, which is, did cost money. And they're spending their own lives. We're not losing American lives over there. And if they want to spend their own lives saving their country, we would do the same over here.
A lot of people are doing this victory lap, which I think is so completely misguided, especially now, because we'll see what happens. So they're saying, Ukraine is just going to agree to the deal that Russia proposed, or that was on the table with Russia, like a year or 2 years ago, or whenever the fuck that was. It was last year, I think. And it was the evil West that prevented them from doing the deal. Even though there's no proof or indication of this other than speculation. And it always annoys me when people bring this up, because like Boris Johnson said that he didn't think that he went to Ukraine and told them that they shouldn't agree to this peace deal. And so therefore, because Boris Johnson did this, that means that he spoke for all the West and that this is America telling Ukraine that they shouldn't do something. No evidence of that whatsoever. And also completely detached from the idea, like it annoys me because anytime anyone brings this up, they very selectively choose to not talk about how when that peace agreement was being discussed, number one, there's literally no indication that Russia would have taken it. A lot of the people that were literally negotiating for Russia were the very, very hardline anti-Ukraine, anti-peace people in the first place, number one. So even if Ukraine agreed to it, Russia might not agree to it, number one. Number two, this is right at the time that Russia went in and like massacred an entire city of Ukrainians.
Right.
And so Zelensky has this pressure of like, Russians just massacred an entire city and I'm supposed to make peace with them. And it's very interesting. When Putin talked about like why the peace talks fell apart, Putin, the guy who always likes to blame the West, he didn't even really blame the West. He said it was because of fake news about Russian massacres, okay, and Russian war crimes. So to me, people always forget this. It's the exact same thing with the firing of the prosecutor in Ukraine. People forget that like the local pressure is always the strongest thing on all these political candidates, not the evil American government or the evil foreign pressure. It's the local pressure that got the prosecutor fired over the diamond scandal and the fact that he wasn't prosecuting people regarding the shootings.
Yeah.
And it's the exact same thing, it looks to me in this situation, is the local pressure of the Russians just massacred an entire, small city. Zelensky's not, going to immediately make some kind of peace agreement with them where Ukraine basically takes nothing but L's in the peace agreement. So.
Yeah, because it's not good for him. It's not good for, nobody wants that. They all want revenge. They want to kill some Russians.
Right. So I guess we'll see what happens going forward. But
Russia's opening offer was, we're going to march into Kiev, your capital city, and kill the guy in charge and replace him with a Russian stooge. That was what they attempted to do. People keep forgetting that.
Yeah, and we're going to make it so you can't have a military anymore.
Yeah.
So like you have to do whatever we say going forward in the future.
So if they come up with a peace deal where they lose part of the Donbass, I mean, they got a way better deal than the opening offer, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
So look, it's no time for victory laps. That's a win.
Yeah, and it bothers me that, like, so when we talk about like the Israel-Hamas situation, there's like this weird thing on the left where people view Palestinians and Hamas specifically as just like a product of their environment, and therefore they can't be held responsible for their actions. And when we talk about that, people on the right are like, can see that and understand that so clearly, and they can criticize it. And yet for some reason, when it comes to the Ukraine-Russia situation, there's a lot of people on the right who literally just look at Russia as like the exact same thing. Russia can't be held responsible for its actions. They were provoked, or it's not their fault. Somehow it's just not Russia's fault for literally doing the fucking thing that they're doing. So it's very weird to me that people can only see it when it's, on one political side and they don't see it on the other political side. But anyway, we've talked about the Russia-Ukraine stuff like a million billion times. Lives in Just Wall specifically for $2 says a Canadian border wall changes my situation a bit. Well, I wouldn't worry about the even if Vivek somehow magically won, there's like no shot of that actually happening.
You missed one.
I read that one.
Insensitive?
Yeah.
Okay.
I read the $20 ones first.
Oh, okay. Good.
Is okay for 3 months says, as a Mexican, invade Mexico. Expand manifest destiny to the south of the USA. But keep the Mexican food better than U.S. food. There you go. Wow. Look at that.
Yeah, I have a bunch of Mexican friends and I got no problem with Mexicans.
Oblivious for $5 says, I just mean under MMT, isn't there more tolerance to spending money that goes to rich people as they don't spend it? Not necessarily. Why? I don't know why there would be.
I mean, I've said before that, obviously rich people can't spend in the same way poor people spend.
Mm-hmm.
If you put money in poor people's hands, they tend to spend it. If you put money in rich people's hands, they tend to spend it on stocks, driving the stock market up. So, but the government spends money on Social Security checks and military contractors. So, look, I don't know what you're trying to say. If you want to look at the Treasury statement, you can go. They publish it on the on the Treasury website every single day.
Well, I mean, I guess I'd say like, so if the government was less adverse to spending, I guess there probably would be more money going to richer people because it just seems to be the breakdown naturally. I don't know if that would increase wealth inequality. I mean, if they were to follow like the lefty MMT prescriptions, obviously they wouldn't want it to go to rich people. They want to have all these, social services for middle and lower income people. So it would really just depend on whoever is making the economic policy of where to spend the money. Which could be completely detached from MMT entirely about where to spend the money.
I don't like the framing that government spending is MMT. Like, how is that logical?
Well, no. So the way that most people interpret MMT
is that print or go burr that it's government, but it's not.
I know
that's not an accurate representation of MMT, and that's why I'm like,
it will let the government feel easier to spend money. That's how most people interpret it.
Yeah, but that's a wrong interpretation. That's why I'm just like, government spending is not MMT.
Right.
The government, before you ever heard of MMT, the government spent money.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The government is spending money on Social Security checks and the military paychecks.
Yes.
Are those going to rich people?
We're going to see how this government shutdown works. We're going to see if Sitch is right again. The government shutdown.
Yes.
In terms of the new House Speaker. That'll be interesting.
Yes.
J-Mac, our surrogate father for $20, says Biden is a drifloon. A drifloon. Read the Pokedex. Okay, wait. The drifloon. Drifloon is a spherical purple body and has 2 stringy arms and a yellow heart shape. What? Dude, it's known for its aimless drifting. Okay. Okay. Trump is gumshoes. DeSantis is clavicle. Vivek is Hisoon electrode. Christie is Guzzlord. Christie is Guzzlord, and Haley is a drag pulse. Well, throughout the week, I'll look and see what each one of those look like. Maybe I'll weigh in on each of them. I don't know if we have time now.
Oh, we don't. But
yeah, Adam's got to go soon.
We have like 5 minutes. So
Daniel Irish for $20 says, "Hi Adam, hi Sitch. Very important question. Has Sitch seen the viral tweet featuring Mariska Hargitay? And if so, does he care to comment?" Who?
Yes,
Adam knows
of course saw it.
Okay, what is
for
this?
a very, very long period of time, and I thought
I assume this is some titty shot or something.
It was very exceptional.
Okay,
it's the one that you shared. What are you talking about?
That I shared?
Yeah, well, you were the one that brought it up.
No, I didn't. I've never seen this person in my life.
This isn't the person that was in Congress?
No.
Okay, well, look, I'm sure it's I haven't seen it.
It's some lady in a black dress with her tits like really pushed up, I guess. Is that it?
I haven't seen it, no.
Okay.
But thank you for the super chat.
But thank you. I haven't. I'll listen. I'll do a thorough investigation. Okay. Dr. Diddler for $2 says, one good thing about this is that the Republican debates are goofy and sometimes nonsensical. Can't help but feel like a Democratic debate would be sad, annoying, and filled with racial pandering. I mean, that's not untrue. That's probably a correct statement. So that's probably correct. Well, anyways.
Well, there's 2 more super chats that just popped in. So
why do I not see them? Oh, there they are. Wonton Tiger for 20 Canadian, thank you. Says, I've given up on a good super chat. Oh, you sent it twice. Or maybe it just shows. I don't know if you sent it twice or you showed it twice. But I think you can get a refund if you accidentally sent it twice. But thank you for the 20 or 40 Canadian. Says, I've given up on a good super chat. Keep doing what you're doing. Happy 300. I hope we can all work together to make things better than things currently seem to be. Don't give up. Give up on giving up. There you go. I like that. Give up on giving up. That's
don't
nice.
give up. Give up on giving up.
Yeah, that's nice.
It is good. I love it.
Good.
All right, guys. Oh, look. Daniel
Irish for
is
$5
back.
says, a joke about how to like MILFs, you dingus. I just want to give you some money. Well, thank you. I always appreciate money and MILFs, so thank you. I figured that's what it was going on there. But
look, you got to make it. Look, we talked about this on the stream with Ethan. Too subtle, man. Too subtle.
Well, I mean, I saw the pictures. This is kind of MILF lady with her tits up, you know.
Okay.
I get it. I got it, Daniel. Thank you.
We'll investigate.
I'll investigate further.
Thanks for the generous super chats. This
Wink,
was
wink.
a lot of fun, obviously. And we'll see where this goes. We'll see if you guys are correct with the analysis on your end that DeSantis is going to be up in the polls tomorrow and Haley is not. I'm very curious.
Well, so I'm curious, and we'll probably cover the DeSantis.
Oh, of course. Newsom
conversation. So that'd be interesting.
Yeah, if it happens. Yeah, we're going to cover this election all the way through, obviously. So,
yep.
Lots of fun.
Later.
Bye-bye.